And we're back. Welcome to the Weekly Roundup. This is a January edition. I'm looking out my window at my snow-covered driveway thinking, oh shoot, I'm going to have to shovel later today. But I am here with my teammates, Josh and Carol. And this is our time where we unpack what is happening in the yoga and wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients towards, with, through, and everything in between. So what's up, team? What's up, team?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up? What's happening? Can
What's
we talk
happening?
marketing? Can we talk marketing to start?
I think everybody always loves to talk marketing, Josh. It's one of our
It's
favorite topics.
endless
Endless talk.
conversation.
I think we
Yeah.
spend like a whole afternoon at the summit talking about like just two aspects of marketing.
Yeah, we didn't even scratch the surface.
We could have spent
Marketing's,
a whole week on that and not scratch the surface.
well, actually, to that point, Terry, I would say like this is an area in business that every business owner is interested in for the most part. Many describe themselves as not necessarily good at it, or they describe themselves as excellent at it. Like, I don't know anyone who's like, I'm mediocre at marketing. They're either like, I'm a great marketer, or they're
Or
like, I suck
I
at
suck.
marketing, which neither are probably true in most cases, but I don't know. I find that interesting. But the point would be, despite the interest in it, despite the like, I want more people in my business, if you ask most owners, like, okay, have you spent like 1 year where you really hyper fixated on figuring out the best way for marketing in your business and set specific goals and optimize things, improve the campaign or tried this or whatever else? And the answer 95% of the time is no. And so because it's such a big subject, to go back to your point, Terry, it's just like, yeah, you could spend a whole year just only focused on trying to figure out the marketing equation for your business. And that would be a good use of your time because it's just that big. And you're never going to not want to do it. Never going to not be beneficial. So, yeah. With that
I guess
said, oh,
I would
you go
say,
ahead.
I would say, if I was listening, I would say, okay, let's say, at first, I will also say people who oftentimes say they're great at marketing, maybe they're not really so great at marketing because when
Yeah.
you ask them, they can't back it up with quantifiable data. Be that as it may, it's like, okay, you're listening to this, I'm listening to this, like, where do I start? Because marketing is such a big topic.
Mm.
And if I'm going to focus on a year on something, and where do I even start to figure out what to do?
Yeah, it's the question. And let me just add this, at every level of business, you'll ask it again. Like it's a repeated question you're going to ask. Well, what should I do? Like, is this? What about that? Like, that's just endlessly going to be there. And there's a lot of online noise and whatever else you hear a lot about marketing. And so it comes up all the time. Um, Look, I think the place to start that's not sexy but powerful is, what's your core message? Like, there's all sorts of messages you can say and do, but the crux of it is, like, if you were opening a business today and you come to us, I'm going to ask you on the very first call in the first hour we ever talk. Did it twice this week. Cool. What is it? And then immediately afterwards, why do I want it? And then obviously there's the how do I buy it, but what's the unique mechanism or what's the differentiator? So to start, like, what the heck is it? Why do I want it? I.e., like, what problems does it solve or what transformations does it offer? And then what's special or unique about it? What's your special sauce? If you can't, in a succinct way, immediately just do that, that's where I'd start, because people need the repetition of the message. Yoga World's a good example of this. There's 100 million things you can say about one yoga posture. But how do you do it in your way? Like, what's your belief? What's the powerful, repetitive thing? What are you going to be known for? That part I feel like doesn't happen in a lot of industries because we're trying to be so broad and inclusive, uh, that we're like scared to own something, to be too polarizing. So that's where I would start. I'll let you guys pipe in first.
I was going to say I'm working with a massage client, and not massage therapy, but a massage business. I think massage therapy is a little bit different than just basic massage, but they have leaned into, when we first started working, they were very clear about what they offered. Is they position themselves, the company's called Massage Strong, and they've positioned themselves as, we work with like athletes. We work with people whose bodies are moving to help you heal, help you have mobility. And they're not a spa,
Mm.
right? So they're not leaning into like, like you go to a resort and you book a massage, right? That's an experience. That's a type of experience you would expect at a resort. And there are lots of standalone businesses that create that experience, but that's not who they are, right? They're really down and in about a certain aspect of massage. So it makes it so it's help when they that narrowly focus. So I think, to your point, is when you have something like yoga or bar or this or that, like you said, what is it, the thing that you can say, this is who we are?
Yeah, to add to that, I'd say if you're having struggling, maybe it's also like, who is this for? Or
Mm.
maybe who is this not for? Like maybe you
Yeah.
can differentiate that way too. Because like you said, Josh, in the yoga world, there are a lot of places that want to be for everybody. And we've seen how that can really backfire because you don't have that special sauce. Like if you're for everybody, then you're also not for everybody. Like you got to lean into something that's more compelling
Yeah.
or, for somebody.
Well, and a
Yeah.
good
If
also,
you're for everyone, you're for no one.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think another good indication of that, again, particularly if you have a product description, and I've seen this with clients we work with, we read the product description. And again, for yoga, it's the class description, and the owner can't even tell me what that class does.
Yeah.
That's a problem, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge problem is if your description of your product is so whatever that you can't even tell someone, you as the owner can't even tell someone what that product is, that's a problem too. So
Well, and
perhaps,
if you can't,
who can?
how likely does your sales team or your teachers or whoever, like how likely do you think they describe it that way? You know what's interesting? I feel like there is a correlation. There's got to be some social science on this or psychology on this. I don't know. There's in my experience a direct correlation between someone who has like very deep belief in the product plus this almost intrinsic deep technical level understanding and a terrible inability to tell someone else about it. Like not everyone, but that's a common thing that we run into. Interesting. It's like you're too close to it or something, you know? Because half of the marketing messages out there that are really powerful, they're pretty darn simple. Clarity beats everything else. So at first, like when in doubt, angle for clarity. Going back to what you said, Carol, for me, it took me a lot of years to get it in general, but it's so much easier for me to start out by doing things like describing who it's not for than trying to describe who it's for. Like my brain can just go to the sort of like, well, I don't want that. I don't want that. And it's like what's left is some gets you started. That's so much easier for me to get the ball rolling. I think it's a good technique. Hmm. That's a good challenge question. You know, there's a Pilates studio. They have some yoga rooms, but their core product is Reformer Pilates, and they're expanding. They have Cadillacs now, whatever. And this question came up on the call, and it's really interesting because there was like the manager teacher on I do it in quotations because they had some special title for this person, but the like manager was on the call too. And we're like, well, what's the like core benefit of what you're specifically offering? And the manager recited like the quintessential exact Pilates, like long lean muscle, core strength, like exactly what every single Pilates place says. And then we pulled it up, like the 6 Pilates places in their city all had that on the homepage. And then the owner was like, well, no, but it's different what we do or whatever. I'm like, cool. Like, how is it different? And just nothing. And you could see it, like I didn't mean to, but they kind of had this little epiphany punch in the stomach of like, oh, like I feel like this is true. I'm saying that this is it, but when we get into the weeds of it, like I can't back it up. I can't explain it. It's not to say that it's not true, but like you just there was nothing there to be said. And this was all because we were talking about like how do we get more people interested in the market and coming in and specifically to them. That's the starting point. I want to take it a step further. So, what are you going to say and what's compelling? Like, obviously, that matters. A good place to start. The two things that we know are really powerful in marketing have been since forever. We maybe just like reiterate how they're worded. One is social proof. And so that's testimonials, reviews, stories, accolades, whatever, that like just backs up your authority. And that's like in our brain, like we're wired this way for looking for confirmation of something. And so that's kind of what that does. Plus, it's way more valuable to me if Carol tells me I should go to Terry's business than if Terry tells me I should go to Terry's business. Because I expect Terry to say that. But if Carol's like privately to me, like, nah, Terry's place is the place to go to. Like you just don't even think about it. That's the place. And says it like that, that the power of that influence on me is, I don't know, exponentially more than anything else you could do. So I think that that category is really important. I've seen that it's kind of going to the wayside recently in a lot of small business that we work with. And I think it's because it's hard. Like it's hard to get a testimonial. It's hard to get reviews. It's hard to leverage them afterwards. I'm not sure what you guys are seeing with that or
It seems to not be on a lot of people's radar, like,
yeah.
they just kind of let them come in, but there's not an active charge to get these reviews coming in. It makes me think I just was at my chiropractor this morning and they constantly have like, leave us a Google review. Every time I go in, there is a sign and it kind of changes places. So I always see it, like
Mm,
I have noticed it every time I go in that it's there. And like now they're on a mission to get 300 Google reviews and we're at 278. Like they are always actively doing it. And I don't see that kind of
mm.
rigor
Yeah.
in most businesses, that we work with.
Yeah, and I love that. And the other thing too is testimonials, because that's very different than a Google review. And I found that the best time to get a testimonial is when someone is talking to you about their experience at your business. And
Yeah.
so when I had my business, I actually had a clipboard with paper, and on it were 3 questions. And I would like, oh my gosh, would you mind? And I would hand them the clipboard and say, would you mind, putting that here? And basically, it's the questions I knew to, what problem did you, or why did you come here in the first place? Right? I was a Bikram yoga studio. So why did you come here in the first place? What happened when you were here? What was the transformation? And how has this impacted your life? Because that's really when people are telling you, oh, I did this and I had this, those are those three. And it was the great. And then what I did, my process was they would write it out. Then I would say, okay. And I would actually write the testimonial and send it to them and say, because I wanted to condense it down, obviously.
Yeah.
And then they would get there and they would say, yeah, that's awesome. And boom, I had a testimonial. But I don't think I would have gotten as many good testimonials if I hadn't done that.
Mm.
Because there's no better time to get that testimonial for any business than right there in the moment.
Yeah, you kind of have to strike when the iron's hot, so to
Right.
speak, whatever the saying is. Yeah.
Right. Straight.
I
Get them.
agree with that.
And it could be just a little, you don't even have, I mean, you could just have a postcard. You could have something. Hey, would you mind writing that down for us?
Yeah.
and just get them right there in the moment. And I haven't seen, I've suggested that to, a bunch of my clients. I don't know if anybody's doing it, but to me, that's just like the best way to get that testimonial is right when they're talking to you about it.
I'm thinking also you could maybe just hear voice record really quickly. Like if you don't even
Yeah.
want to write it down, but here are the 3 questions. Can you just
Yeah.
like answer here and I'll condense it for you into a testimonial and I'll
Mm-hmm.
get your approval before we
Yeah.
post.
Yeah. That's a really good, I never even thought, I'm a boomer. What
Yes.
can I say?
You're gonna write it down.
I was just like, and I was so OG. I actually happened to have, I don't know why I had it, do you guys know binder paper? Everybody
Yeah.
still, the kids still use binder paper. I happen to have binder paper, so I had it on binder paper so they could write on the lines. But I like that idea even better, Carol. Here, can I just voice note this and time? I never even thought, it never crossed my mind. And here's an interesting fact.
Especially
I'm sorry, I just have to say this. I just saw a note that the oldest boomers are now turning 80.
old.
Oh,
And by yoga standards, halfway. I read a thing once, super fascinating. The human body is designed to, if you don't wreck anything in it, to live for 140 to 160 years. And you can extend it by doing positive things. You can take years away by doing negative things. So if our average human life right now is like half, it's because we have to do so much negative shit to it. That's a wild thought.
But also think how
Also,
far we've come. Like
yeah,
people
that's
used to
true.
only die at 32 or something, because that was old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, if you hit 40, you were old.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. This is such a tangent. What a wild way to look at it. Like if you expected you were going to live to 120, 150, 160, like the time frame of like in a business as well. A decade changes is a different viewpoint all of a sudden. Anyways, I digress. This, especially now, like voice note stuff is so powerful because in our business, like I'm thinking back over the last more than a decade now, it's probably only 5 years ago. Like we paid thousands of dollars a year. One year, like literally probably like $5,000, $6,000 a year in transcription service. Now it's just perfect and free everywhere. You used to have to do rev and it would transcribe like per minute. You pay like X cents per minute. And yeah, wild. Now, any voice note anywhere, there's like 50 ways you can do it for free and it's accurate. So yeah, easy to grab that. I think the other piece of the puzzle that was coming up for me, just sort of an idea and then like piece of the puzzle, is that okay, so you get the testimonial or you get the Google review or you get the story or you get the questionnaire. Then what? Like, what do you do with it? And I feel like obviously if it's a video, you could edit it and post it or whatever. But because it's not specific, it's like if you don't have the vision for what I'm going to do with this, like how I'm going to leverage it specifically and a plan, it's hard to be enthusiastic about getting it. I think that's part of it. Go ahead, Terry.
well, one of the things I did, and this was on the suggestion of my coach at the time, was with the testimonials, because we know in a lot of times in the wellness, fitness and wellness world, average months on membership typically is 4 to 6 months. We like to think people stay forever, but they don't, which is an interesting thought experiment, thinking that your business, whatever it is, like in a fitness world, your membership is turning over like at least minimum 3 times a year. So interesting thought experiment there. However, so we had a retention nurture email sequence and text sequence that went out. And knowing that people started to drop off at month 4, and I feel a lot of times that's due to the fact that, you come into whatever fitness modality or whatever you're doing, and you usually in the beginning, you start feeling good. You start doing better, all the, you can see pretty rapid rates of progress, typically. And then if that oftentimes it happens, then you hit this plateau, right? Because actually, the better you get, the harder you have to work to get more, to keep improving, right? If you look like endurance athletes and stuff like that, right? They're at the top of their game, but man, if they want to get that extra oomph, they want to get that extra couple tenths of a second on their time, they're training hard, and they have to train harder than they did 5 years ago, right? So I think that's a similar thing. And then we get, particularly here in the States, the bright, shiny object. Oh, this isn't working for me anymore. I'm going to go try this thing, right? So knowing that, we had those testimonials go out in emails and things like that at that point in time, talking about how this has benefited them over the long haul. So that was one way that we used a testimonial in terms of, oh, okay, I can see myself. And also you can put them on your website, have like a scrolling thing on your website. I mean, and if you do get the testimonial too, you can do a whole thing. Like now on social, you could have like a reel, you could do this, you can really parse it out in a lot of different ways when you get that basic testimonial.
That's what I was going to say, Terry, is like, there's a million places you can put it. So this vision of like, what are you going to do, format it, where does it go, or whatever, I think helps to build the enthusiasm, because then you want to go get good ones. And you start, the other thing is like testimonials specifically, different than Google reviews, for example, in that you don't need 5,000 testimonials. You need like to start 3 really good ones about specifically your business, like, and the transformation that you're offering to sort of corroborate that. Like, obviously get more, but the power of them, like, yeah. Anyways, one of the things that I think we're going through right now in this sort of like artificial intelligence revolution is massive distrust, which is, let's just expanding that. It was already there, of what you see, like what's real. And like AI avatars are fucking, they are wild already. And they're exponentially better than they were 1 year ago, let alone 2. Like 2 years ago, it was a joke. It was like funny. Now, Twitter is getting banned in countries because of deep fake shit. Like it's it's crazy. So the point would be, in marketing, whether you agree with this or like it or not, this isn't coming, it's here. And the juiced up marketers, like, this is what they're doing. They're not going and asking for a testimonial. They're making a testimonial from an AI avatar. So there's an ethical question that comes into this too. And it gets really interesting because this amplifies the value of something that's real, if I believe that it's real. But at the same time, like, why not leverage a powerful tool of production if it's available to you? And from a competitive landscape standpoint, also makes sense. So real testimonial, obviously really important. But things like your reviews or little short stories that people just write down that like they don't want to film a video or whatever else, why not? Like, you could easily make an AI voice, like think like a little mini podcast clip. You could easily do like B-roll with just like that reading it over, or just yourself reading it out. You could easily make an AI avatar, like a male and a female and a whatever, and then have it speak through the review. But you would actually just put on there like these like real client words, whatever, amplified with this AI avatar. Like, just be truthful about what that is, because also currently still it's a lot of effort to make it so that you don't realize that it's AI, like if anyone's really paying attention. But the reason I'm thinking about this is that like, we have businesses we're working with, they have 300, 400 5-star reviews, and there's really good stuff in there. You could just post them by itself, but you could now recycle that. That was the thing we couldn't do before very well. You could recycle it into a couple of different video formats, voiceover format, whatever, to get this like better social proof pushing out there. I think that part's cool. Because going back to what you were doing, Terry, about like, you have the questions, you just grab it, or Carol, just voice note right away. but then also you writing the testimonial. That used to be controversial, but like that is the best practice. It's like you get the information. They still have to approve it, whatever else. This is the new version of that, is the way I kind of see it if you're doing it right. Because if I want Carol to leave a testimonial video, I have to prompt with the right questions. I have to actually get the real answer. I have to also make sure that the recording is good. I have to also make sure that Carol speaks it clearly and edits, and we got to edit it and like it's high friction. It's not that you shouldn't do it. It's just if you want volume, it's very high friction. It's easier to just write a testimonial yourself. Now it's easier to just make the testimonial, get it approved, be genuine about what's going on. I don't know.
I just had an idea, an idea when you were talking about B-roll and have a voiceover, is you could take, if you don't have, I mean, if you have testimonials, great, but like your Google reviews, like you said, you could use AI, have it pull up, like I would like all the Google reviews about Carol's class, right? And then you
Yep.
get all the, and then you could go in and like kind of like have a little B-roll of Carol, right? Showing Carol at the front desk or showing Carol teaching her class or doing whatever she is. If you're another type of business, like here's Carol at the massage. And as that's happening, someone could be reading their, blah, 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 blah from
Yep.
Carol, blah, 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 blah from Josh. I mean, think about that. I mean, then you can put
Yep.
that out there to promote like your services, your service providers, whether it's a yoga teacher or massage therapist or physical therapist or whatever it is, and almost make it sort of like B-roll home, Super 8 movie kind of thing, because then it seems a little bit more authentic. I don't know. That was just a thought I had. I thought
It's a formatting thing, but it's like it's a brain engagement piece. There's a different thing happening when you read something to versus when you hear something versus when you hear and read it versus when you see video of it versus when you see it, hear it, read it, video. Like there's a thing that happens. If you want proof of this, go on YouTube and search morning motivation. Every morning I listen to, the reason I know about this so deeply is every morning I listen to like Eckhart Tolle or whoever I'm onto at the moment. And now I'm running into this problem that half of the stuff out there from these philosophers and Stoics and whoever else that I would previously have listened to is fake. It's fake accounts who have copied their voice and show a picture of them and then just write whatever and put it in there. And if you really know, like if you've read the books of the person you're listening to and everything else, you'll pick it up pretty quick. You're like, no way, this is bullshit. Someone else wrote this. This is not what they would say. But if you didn't know, anyways, I digress. The morning motivation thing, every motivation video out there is just this. It's like a bunch of B-roll clips and then a voiceover saying or pulling quotes from all these different places. But if you just listen to it, it's good. But then if you listen to the ones that are really good, there's a music that they put to it. And if they curate the music correctly, it massively changes the impact of the quote. And then the ones that are excellent, there's a B-roll on it. If you actually sit and watch it, it's like you have an emotional response to the quote that they've put in there, but the person who the quote is not on the screen. The B-roll might have very little to do with what you're seeing. Like it's wild. It like tricks your brain because we're wired like that. So I'm not saying to go do that necessarily, but just to your point, Terry, that it's like making a decent video with like some B-roll and editing and stuff is pretty easy with good voice. That's true. You don't have to make a client do all of those things. You can sort of grab the reins on that.
Yeah, I just thought of something, Josh.
Interesting.
We should describe what exactly is B-roll, because not everybody listening may know
Oh,
what B-roll means, if you think about it.
B-roll is the shot. It's just like random, just a camera grab shot of something random that you can insert between scenes or have voiceover go over top of it or whatever else. It's like filler, basically. It's in every movie, it's in everything. It is easily some of the most powerful. Like if you were opening a business today, once you start operating, I would spend the first month getting a shit ton of B-roll. Just like people coming signing into your Pilates class, two people high-fiving, a teacher walking by and being like smiling, two people talking. That B-roll is endlessly useful. It's more useful than someone staring at camera saying something half the time. Once you get into editing stuff or building something, which is why there's all these AI editing services or like apps and stuff now. I've been testing a lot of them. Some of them are bullshit, some of them are okay. Kind of depends on what you're looking for as an end result. But the major feature that they're all trying to push is AI B-roll, where it's like it's pulling from stock video and photo and based off the words and whatever, it's just like putting stuff in. And I'm not sure, like it's not that great most of the time. And the context of like if you're a brick and mortar service business, probably not perfect, but it's coming. So I think what's coming though is like if you grab your own B-roll and then editing it in is now much easier. Easier to create that content.
And I bet you anything, Carol, you are a master of this.
Of
Trade.
getting of what? Oh,
Trade.
trade. Yeah, I was like, of what? I mean, you make connections, and if you get to know people in your business, the customers, there's usually a wide range of services that you can trade for. Just be careful, and you're supposed to what's the word? Like on your taxes, you have to make sure that you're doing the right thing there. Just as a
Good disclaimer, Carol.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to declare it, I think is what it is,
Yeah.
or something along those lines.
Hashtag Terry's dad, you can mess with God, but not with the IRS.
Right. Cover your butt.
CYA.
Yeah. As an aside, I triggered from you, Josh, when you were saying that. I have a client who's going to do a photo shoot, and I was like, make a list. Like, don't go in there blind,
Yeah.
essentially. Like, and B-roll would be one of them. Like, I need people high-fiving. I want people laughing at the front desk. I want whatever, the class or the services, like 20 seconds of this and that. Like, it will make
Yeah.
the process more efficient. So, just as a side note, I wanted to add that.
Well, and absolutely. And the other piece of that puzzle is the number of times we experience a client who pays for a photo shoot and like they pay quite a bit sometimes. And then they don't have any of this. They don't have any B-roll. They have a bunch of like their class, everyone wearing a matching outfit. It's all the instructors. They're all like kind of serious. They're all like doing the posture perfect or whatever in a yoga studio. And you're like, yeah, that's like artistic or whatever, but as soon as we go start marketing, like, is that the vibe? Like, is that your studio? And they're like, well, no, we're more like kind of any body type, whatever else. I'm like, great. So like, where's that shot? Or like, we're the friendly community studio and we know your name. It's like cheers. We're like, cool. So like, where's the shot that shows that? And they don't get it. This is actually a good filter question, like without giving the answer away. If you were vetting a videographer coming in or photographer coming in and you're like, cool, so like what shot list would we work with? Like what's your thought on that? If they're not like, you're gonna need B-roll, like they should ask you what the purpose of it is. But if they're not like, you're gonna need B-roll, you're gonna need this, then I don't know. Like I wouldn't say you don't hire them at all, but that's a strong indicator that they don't understand the end use of what they're creating. So shot list. AI avatars, shot list. Last thing on marketing that this sort of leans into is like, what are we talking about here? Because the distribution could be an ad, could be an organic post on social media, could be an email, could be on your website, could be a tablet playing video testimonials or whatever that you put on the wall in the studio. There's infinite ways to distribute it, but we're just talking about content creation. And then there's like obviously the different types of content, the testimonial review being one of them. But like, what do you do with marketing? Create content. right now, the biggest differentiator that you can have is the content itself. There's nothing else you can do anymore. Like targeting and ads, that's just all done automatically. Not 100%, but like you just don't need to manipulate it nearly as much. There's still some tweaks and some technical things that like super technical stuff. But generally, the difference between my business and yours in the same market is the content that we put out. Words sell, videos sell because I need to know, like, and trust you. Or precursively, if you don't put any content out, how do I know anything about you? Like, how do I know that you exist? I had two owners in the last week on coaching calls be like, I'm kind of just resolved. This was one of them said exactly this. I'm kind of just resolved to like, I just hate creating content. I don't think we should do it. I was like, okay. So, but like, how are we going to solve people finding you? Like, if you don't want to make videos of yourself, fine. But the whole like, we don't make content, we're going to make a pretty wild plan somewhere else then. So make content. I don't know. Get over it. But I mean, bluntly, you're gonna have to do things in your business all the time you don't like to do. I don't love cleaning toilets. I'm gonna clean it.
I'd rather clean a toilet than a clogged hair drain, a drain clogged with hair.
Oh, it's true.
That was like the, and I have to totally laugh.
The women's room showers in our studio. I of course was the one everyone's like, I was just take one for the team. Everyone's like, we're not, I can't do it. Our cleaners, our front desk, Jenna, all of them are like, nah, this is like Josh, it's not a male, female thing. We're just like, you gotta do this. And I'm like, I will handle this, this piece of the puzzle. There's things I don't want to do. I'll handle this one. But man, it's gross.
I think I still have a picture of myself. It was the like within the first couple of, I think it was the day or the day after I officially bought my studio, and I'm cleaning out. The drain is clogged, and I just start laughing. And I look up and I go, "Oh God, Dad, you were so right." And then someone it was because my father was used to work for my dad in his own business, so if you know that, a lot of you know that. But anyway, I was just laughing so hard. I said, okay, here's the glorious owner cleaning out the
Yeah.
clogged drain with the hair. It just seemed very poetic.
I saw a great video once, speaking of great videos. I can't remember the business it was for, but it was one of those like snap cuts where it was like what people think it's like owning your own business. And it like shows them driving a Ferrari up and parking and people like bringing them a coffee or whatever else. And they sit down at a boardroom, what it's really like. And it was like them scrubbing a toilet. There's like a fire coming out of a trash can. Like they made it really ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right. It's a war zone half the time. Or it can't be. Yeah. Not as glamorous as we think. Tara, you had something we were talking before we jumped on today. Speaking of businesses, what was the company we were talking about?
So I read a really interesting article, and it was about Macy's, which is a major
Mm.
retail here in the United States. Been around for well over 100 years. Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade, and I was just reading about, it was because one of the yet another giant retailer has filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 11 here. And I was just looking to see um bit of name. Anyway, so doesn't matter who the company was, but so Macy's actually posted a gain in Q4 in the first and the end of the year. They were up 1% from last year. Now they're saying, the article is saying that's not anything really big. I mean, 1%. However, given the fact that so many of the higher end retails like Neiman Marcus, Barney's, Lord and Taylor, Saks Global, yeah, it was Saks Global, Saks Fifth Avenue that filed for bankruptcy, is the fact that these all these massive, huge retailers in the United States are going under or have gone under, the fact that Macy's even posted a minimal gain was huge. And, particularly the pandemic ruined almost, crushed so many people. And then they were talking to this new CEO who's been on board for 2 years. It came down, they laughed. Actually, the author of the article said, there is another way this transitional phase in retail could play out, one in which Macy's and its higher end subsidiary Bloomington's managed to continue defy the doom forecasting by focusing on, don't laugh, this is the article, fundamentals. It turns out that focusing on running a good business might be the thing that customers want.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Right. And so it talked about the new CEO he's like, okay, what are we going to do? We are going to clean, it's like he fixed shit, right? He fixed the doors and the changing rooms and he focused on infrastructure, and they did close 100 underperforming stores, but yet he focused on the fundamentals. Clean, well lit, stocked merchandise. And then guess what else he invested in, which kind of goes back to our whole AI technology and AI chatbots and avatars, is guess what he also invested in? Human beings.
Oh, I thought you were going to say robots for a minute.
Nope.
I'm so
Human
pumped.
beings.
A bunch of robots.
Nope. Human beings that could be on hand. It said, a big part of Spring's turnaround plan had been simply to pick up the messy piles of unfolded sweaters, fix the janky dressing room locks, and put actual human staff in place to tend the customers. Fundamentals. And so that really got me thinking about sometimes when we coach with businesses, it's like, yeah, fundamentals fucking work.
Yeah.
And if we
Well,
get, and I said, we get so focused on all these ethereal, esoteric kind of shit, if we just draw it back down to fundamentals. And they've actually been able to stave off, is that the correct word? Stave off 2 hostile takeovers. Because a lot, you mentioned VA firm, VC, a lot of VC people have been circling as these retailers circle the drain, not to buy the business, but to buy the business and to gut it. And then they've got the real estate.
Well, so, and there's other mechanisms too when they parse out a business, how it can make money. The thing is interesting that this CEO clearly understands, like fundamentals, absolutely, but then also context.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing that gets missed, I think, sometimes, and why fundamentals are so fundamental. But within the context of your business, if I'm going to go physically to Macy's, why?
I want to experience.
Right, like because I don't want to go there if it's dirty and broken and whatever, and it doesn't have what I want, first off. But also, if there's no human that I can ask a question to or interact with that it can help me, that I can shop from my computer or my phone pretty fucking easy. And if you're in any major city in the US, the speed, like you don't even have the advantage of I want it right now anymore. Yeah. When I was in LA, I forgot my sunglasses or whatever. This is a couple of years ago when I was going to the studio. I ordered them on my phone. They came the same afternoon. It was I couldn't have taken a break from work to go to a place to find a pair and buy them faster than I got them for less money. So like, why would I ever go to your store if that's possible, right? But if I don't know what I want and I want to talk to someone and I want to go through the shopping experience, absolutely.
And I love the fact that he talked about investing in humans, because we hear sometimes within your business, there's the chicken and the egg thing, right? It's like, you need more help. But if you hired people to do something, it would actually do this, but yet you're not in a position to be able to it's like it would be an expense and you don't have the revenue to support that expense, but yet if you added these people, then the revenue would come, kind of thing. And so therefore we prolong hiring people and try to do it all. And when we think of it that way, it's like, that's not a great optimal client experience, if you're short staffed. I mean, nothing's more
Well,
frustrating than going to a business and that it's short staffed
yeah.
and it, and it's busy or whatever. So I really think that's something that we as business owners really need to think about.
But also there's certain businesses and most of like, we're primarily working with obviously yoga studios, boutique fitness and wellness, but also any service-based business working human to human. And that's the point. Like the product is the human interactive piece, is the expertise of the person that's there. It's the yoga teacher, it's the front desk, it's the Pilates professional, it's the therapist, it's the physical therapist, like it's the massage therapist. That's the person that makes, like that is the product. And so, of course, we want to invest in that. Like that is the experience of what the business is. Context again. Terry, I've got a thing, Carol's words, uptime. Like the reason you think someone's an expense, a hire in your business, is there's only three potential reasons why you wouldn't be willing to make that leap. The core one is that you don't have a system for them to exist within.
Mhm.
Like it's not a them problem or it's not even an affordability problem. It's a you problem. You haven't figured out what you need to have happen that would actually be impactful. That's usually what it is. But then number two is because you can't train the person and have uptime. So for the example would be like a front desk, client relations management, or salesperson or whatever at the front end of house in any of the businesses we're talking about. The ROI on that person is a bazillion X if they're any good and you train them. So if you're looking at them as an expense, it's a training question and getting them to focus on the right thing. We don't need someone to sign in a yoga class. We can do that on an iPad. We can make like there's 1,000 ways to do that. Super easy. We have a robot do that. So like what are they doing there? There's a lot to do, but it's engaging people. But the other thing is, so how would you test this? Like if you're like, okay, I'm going to hire someone. Very often, the owner who's reluctant to hire isn't doing the action that they're hiring for themselves. And that's actually the problem because they don't have the context and perspective on the value of it. The owner's never worked the front desk at their own Pilates studio or yoga studio or has never been the receptionist. And so they've never gone through the sales process really. And so they're like, well, yeah, I want a person there, but they don't see it because they can't do it. They haven't experienced it directly. Go ahead.
Or the inverse of that is
Mm,
the invert there, I agree with that. And the inverse of that is nobody can do it as well as I can. Therefore,
mm,
I've seen that. It's like they're
yep,
holding on to it and they're like, oh,
yep,
it's easier, it's quicker and easier for me to do this rather than train somebody to do it. So
yep.
sometimes the inverse of that is exact op is the it's the exact opposite. And I will say that every single client that I've worked with in the last almost 5 years, when they finally got to Hyatt and Carol, you probably know where I'm going with this, and you can probably agree, is every single one of never has anybody ever said, I regret hiring front desk. They all said the same thing. Why did I wait so long to do
Yep.
this? And
And
it,
none of them have gone backwards.
mm-mm.
Zero, zero. For anyone listening, we actually checked this too. Like, none have hired front desk, trained them, got them doing something, what they say aside, and then like 6 months later be like, I'm gonna not have front desk anymore. Like, no one goes that direction once they do it.
I had the the conversation yesterday encouraging a business owner to hire a front desk. And part of it is like breaking it down really simply. Like, look, if it's one shift per week, like your busiest
Yeah.
time, and it's 3 hours, let's say, and we broke it down, 2 memberships.
Yeah.
You need to sell 2 memberships to pay for that person. And beyond that, like the goal is that they would go way beyond, that expectation. They would be selling memberships, tenfold. So it's like, yeah, and you're right, nobody ever goes back.
In fact, they go forward, and I now have clients who have on shift front desk at every class, including those early AM classes, as well as on their super busy class. Now they have a minimum of 2. And I have one studio that we're working on what's called a floater position as well, because again, that client experience, right?
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting you say that because I'm working with another client and talking about fundamentals. We've spent a couple of calls just evaluating because they have 2 rooms with yoga classes going. It's a super quick turnaround, and we're looking at just what are the little things that we can do in that 30-minute window? Do we need a floater position? How can we make this experience better for not only the clients, but also your staff? Because there is a place where like the time doesn't work, or how do we time this just right, or get something prepared that can make this more efficient? I mean, it's going exactly to what you're saying, Terry. These fundamentals are really important to look at. And it's a well-established studio. They've been around 10 years. It's like, but we're still going back to look
Yeah.
at how we can make this better.
Because that's a good point, Carol. As your business grows, as things change, you add more staff, more classes, the fundamentals might broaden a little bit more. And the point where we're at, this client I mentioned, is they've had 2 people, but even then it was like, okay, now we've drilled it down even further. It's like, we need to have detailed front desk position A, front desk position B. Not that one's more important than the other, it's that they're doing distinct, so there's not confusion on who's doing what. So now we're to the level of defining each position in terms of in the uptime. We're specifically talking in that uptime is like in a fitness business, when you've got clients coming in, people are checking in, going to class, and then obviously that busy time where you have people coming out and people coming in. So that whatever that chunk of time is, typically half hour, it almost like needs to be choreographed.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing half the time when we physically go to a
Yeah.
business. It's choreography.
Is choreography, and where the flow is, and not just the physical flow, because that's a good point, Josh. When we first go to a studio on site, one of the first things we do the very first day when we get there, we go in, we just sit and observe and make notes.
Yeah. How are people moving through the space?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's wildly surprising how not bad it is, but how restrictive, I guess, would be a better word. Where it's like just flipping over a thing from this side of the desk to here, or this person doing that, and suddenly everything opens up. It's been in front of them the whole time. That's no shade. It's like if you're too close to it, sometimes you need an outside source on your business. But also, what I was thinking about is, because you made the comment, Terry, your business changes. Like what you need changes. It's why there's no one way to do something. In this town, there's a lot of, I would say, interesting entrepreneurs that I get to talk with. And some of them are like super accomplished, very like big people. There's a musician who's quite famous who's here off and on, and he's very like probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever directly got to have lunch with, kind of thing. But we were talking on the business side, and part of his intelligence is he's like, nope, I found like the manager because this stuff isn't my thing. But anyways, I digress. The point would be, as soon as someone says to me, they're like, well, yeah, like this is the way that you do this, I'm immediately like, uh-huh. I don't say anything, but I'm just like, you've just proven, like, it sounds super judgy, but like, I'm like, you've just proven that you're stuck somewhere. I don't know where it is yet. You don't maybe either. Maybe it's not a problem. But as soon as you say, we do it this way because it's the way we've always done it, you're dead. Your business, the environment changes, the people change, you change, what you need changes, what you're solving for changes. So like the fundamentals are going to change. The outcome desire, the fact that they need to be there, that doesn't change. That's always going to be there. But to think that you're going to set it and forget everything forever is like saying we're going to be static and never grow, and nothing's going to change in the market, and all the people are going to stay here the whole time.
Yeah.
How likely is that in a business?
A great, there's multiple versions of this analogy, but a great analogy is that little girl asked mom, Mommy, how come you cut off the ends of the roast beef? Mom says, I don't know. Let's go ask grandma. Grandma, how come we cut off the ends of the roast beef? I don't know. Let's go ask great grandma. Great grandma, how come? I don't know. Let's ask great great grandma. Great great grandma, how come? Oh, because that's how big my pot was.
Yeah, it wouldn't fit in the
Right?
pot.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't fit the pot, so she cut off the ends of the roast beef. I mean, it's like you get these entrenched things, entrenched way of thinking. And as the business grows, like to your point, Josh, we go in and we say, oh, if you move from this side to this side, might, because when it was on that side, it worked.
Yeah.
But now the business is at this level. Now we need to open it up. So yeah, so it's like, and actually this is where I had a great conversation with a client yesterday. They just hired their two front desks. They did a little bit cart before the horse, but that's okay. They hired them without having everything defined and organized. And I'm like, okay, we can work with this. I said,
Gung
actually,
ho. Great.
gun
Get
ho.
them.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love that they did it. I said, actually, this could be a good thing because there's no better time to build a system than the people are actually going to be working the system. Because the owner and the manager have just been doing this, it's like they don't even think about it.
Yeah.
So it's like this is actually a good thing to have, and you can tell them that we're going to be building this, and we really appreciate your input. And there's no such thing as a stupid question. If something doesn't make sense, please let us know. And so we have a whole process that is going to help. So if you're in that boat where I was going to say, when you bring somebody on board and you have SOPs and things like that, it's a good time to say to this person, look, we have these SOPs. Please let us know if this all makes sense because things do change. And oftentimes it's interesting when we go in and we say, okay, what's the SOP for this? We pull up the SOP and we're like, well, nobody's doing this.
Yeah. SOPs don't, this is a weird way to say it, but SOPs don't do anything. SOPs are the record of what you do.
Right.
So that you can train to it and it can be repeatable.
Right.
But an SOP itself, like the fact that you wrote something down and then you put it in a binder,
is
if
it
no
still
one does
relevant?
it,
Yeah.
right.
Is
If
it
it's not up to
relevant?
date, if no one does
Not
it,
up
it
to
doesn't
date.
matter.
So if you're listening, like what SOPs stand for standard operating procedures. It's like the checklist, like how to open the business, how to close the business, how to do this, how to do that. And they are too, they're very fluid. They change over time as things change. And that's why I'm saying the best way to have a review of the new SOPs is a new hire. And like, okay, and then they're like, wait a second, no, we don't, this doesn't make sense. Or, well, Betty told me that we don't do it this way anymore. We do it this way. Oh, okay.
That's why Betty's fired.
Right. So anyway, that's something that, just popped
Well,
up.
also, when you have a new hire and you're going through your SOPs, you have to train the new hire on the fundamentals. Like it goes
Right.
right back to that. So training is actually a really powerful thing to do because when you teach someone something, you learn it better yourself. But also, you identify you're teaching them something. You're like, this isn't right. Like you'll find that stuff. Carol, to sort of end us off for today, what are the fundamentals? If you're a service-based business that helps humans improve their life through transformation of some sort, from a business perspective, what are some of the fundamentals?
I'd say our first visit flow is deeply fundamental to having a successful business. In any business, you need to have a standard operating procedure on what happens when a first timer walks in the door. And, I think that it doesn't necessarily change a whole lot. I mean, once we create something, it tends to be fairly standard, and there might be little tweaks here and there, um, but what happens is your employees get off track, so they need to be pulled back to fundamentally, what are we trying to do here? Let's remember. Um, oh gosh, I don't know. I think the fundamentals of customer service in that way too. Like say hello, welcome people, look them in the eye. It's just
Oh my
like
God,
really
dude.
simple things.
These are not simple anymore.
I know. I know.
I'm not saying that in defense of anything. Like
No.
it just fucking blows my mind.
Mhm.
Like the inability of staff to do some of this stuff. And I'm not saying this as a judgment of them. Like we're just at this cultural moment. It's just fascinating. I mean, some of the bosses I had, I'm not saying this is good, but we've all had a weird or shitty boss. Like I've had a couple bosses where, holy cow, if you didn't use the person's name and look them in the face, like they would have reamed the shit out of you for an hour and then sent you home early and like tried to fucking dock your pay. And because it was different back then, you take it and be like, I guess this is normal, like super abusive relationship. So don't do that. But it was like, yeah, just culturally normal and then also really driven home. And now not normal. And we're like, well, Carol's not comfortable using someone's name.
Yeah, we give a lot of excuses. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah. I I I don't know. I do think that you're right. I didn't It's something you have to tell people to do to introduce themselves. And also the staff, I think, needs a reminder that who's the most important people to have conversations with. Because once we get comfortable in our business as
Mm,
well, even us as owners start to like we see our bestie come in or that member that we see every single day and we have a relationship with. And so fundamentally flipping the script where the people that are most important to talk to are not your best friend in that moment. You can have that conversation elsewhere. But it's rather like the people that are new to your studio, the people you don't know, introduce yourself to them. Ask them, what they've gotten out of your, services so far and how they're doing and how they like it, Anyway, those are my thoughts.
And I have a great anecdote for that as well. This actually happened at the summit a couple of years ago. What you're just describing is the long-term studio owner was there with his manager. His manager had been a client and then started working the front desk and then became his manager. And we were talking about this experience and um, the owner was like, "Oh no, my teachers are so great, blah blah blah," and they make everyone. And the manager went, "No, they don't," and he was like, he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, I was afraid of them." When I first started, when I would come in, they were always talking to the same people, and I felt like I was back in high school. And it was the cool kids club. And it was like an aha moment for this owner. It was like, holy shit! She's, oh no, they intimidated me.
yeah.
Now that goes to show the power of some of the yoga classes that she kept coming back, even though she felt but she said, "Oh yeah, no, there's some teachers that just scared the hell out of me." I
You know, where this is like rampant right now and whatever. And some listeners, you might not want to hear this. Like, it's Pilates, dude. The Pilates princess movement, Megaformer, especially Legree. Like, holy shit! Look, and there's so many nice people, so many great things, excellent product. Yes, yes, yes. But the number of times that we get the report, or that I personally experienced, or someone on our team has, like, where it's totally possible to go into a space brand new and like actively get snubbed. It's one of the few places I've ever seen it, where it's not just that you got ignored. You're like, well, hang on, like attitude, wild. I just can't even believe it. Ask the owner. Well, great community of people. We're super welcoming. You're like, oh, what? You go just sit and watch what's going on. And it's not malicious. Like, no one's trying to do it. It just kind of happens. Carol, to your point of like fundamental, what's the plan here with this person, this person, this person? Who should the priority be? Like, that simple of definition. It will not happen on its own. Hmm. I would make a strong argument for the idea that if you took two side-by-side businesses and all you did different between the two of them was that this one, the teacher or the service provider and the front desk or like associate or salesperson up front, learn the person's name and use it, each of them, at least 3 times during the entire, whatever, hour, 90 minutes that the person's there. And this place doesn't use their name at all. I would bet the farm that this place grows faster or converts more or whatever else. Not sales technique, not pricing, not product, just name use. Like that fundamental. I think that's the level that we're at.
Well, Josh, isn't there a study? I maybe I'm making this up, but I seem to recall you saying this at an on-site we were at years ago about there's been studies done that if people hear their name, they're X% more likely to come back to that place,
Yep.
to that business. Yeah, I mean, there's actual psychological or what no, what's this?
Psychological.
Psychological, sociological, that where this bears out.
We like hearing our name, but the thing that's interesting on the neuroscience side of it, that's very proven, there are a few things that you can say to someone where outside of anyone's control, generally speaking, 98% of the time, what fires in your brain, like there's a different synapse fire when you, example, hear your name. And so that's the parent who yells the full name at
Teresa
the kid.
Jean!
Right. Like something else fires when that happens. So it's not even just like that we like to hear it or whatever, like actually something is happening that's different. Both good and bad, I would say as well. Like there's appropriate name use and then there's not really inappropriate name use, but name use that feels out of place.
A real good example of what you just said, when I was teaching overseas years ago, I called this one young woman Rose, which was not her name. I called her the wrong name for 6 months before someone heard me and said,
She was too polite to tell you.
yeah, and said, Terry, that's not Rose, that's Carol. And I went up to her
It's
and
like not even close.
it wasn't even no, it wasn't even close. Right? It wasn't even close. So I went up to her. She was the sweetest. And I apologized. She said, oh, Terry, no, once I figured out you were talking to me, I felt so special that you were using my name.
It's like, it wasn't even your name. Yeah.
But because, she figured out that I was talking to her, even if it was the wrong name, she felt really, every time
Yeah.
I said, oh, hi, Rose. Rose, how are you doing? Or good job, Rose. She was like, because you know what? She felt seen.
She friggin' changed her name for 6 months to for Terry.
And she even said, if you want to keep calling me Rose, I think it's a very pretty name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Oh, that's so
but
good.
that's the really great reinforcement of what you just said, is that, it's powerful.
Well, I guess what comes to mind for me sort of summing this up to cap us off for today, when we talk about like AI avatar and these different messaging things or whatever else, this is why there's wild stuff where the way an AI responds, we like it because it's doing this. It's using your name, it's speaking in a certain tone, it's iterating something from memory or whatever. And our brains are wired to feel safety in that and comfort and to look for it. And so that's already happening. And asterisks, still, you and I physically together, if it happens in that context, more powerful. Like this is well proven. It's a different thing. But I would just make the point around the fundamentals that that also means if it's not happening, like now I can sit here and I can voice chat and talk business with a customized GPT that talks how I want it to, whatever else, and blows me up. But then when I come in and talk to you before my class, I'm not addressed like anywhere near that. You don't even know my name when I've been coming for 6 months. Like that's jarring now. So it's like the value of it is heightened, but also the non-fundamental principles, if they're not done, I think the negative impact is also heightened. So go to the fundamentals.
Is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap for this week's Weekly Roundup. Tune in every Friday. Make sure you subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you watch, view, listen, stream, whatevs. Have a beautiful week, everybody. And we are live in person. We are actual human beings. We are not bots.
These are not AI avatars.
These are not
yet.
AI avatars.
Not
sure.
yet.
Not yet. Oh, God.
I'm making one of Terry right now. We're going to bring her on a call. Well, if Terry versus Terry, holy shit, Carol, can you imagine that episode? We had two Terrys on here. Yeah.
Oh, well, on that note, I'm going to end this conversation. Bye, all. See you next time.